This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaron. Joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? What's going on?
You're the only guy I know who says 2 minutes, and he totally runs on Arab time. It's just what you do. 2 minutes, 12 minutes later. 12 minutes.
Well,
how's there a 6-time multiplier on your time? What is going on?
Someone messaged me for services, and they had questions, and so I had to address it. You know what I got to do, bro.
The only guy you know who works 14 jobs and does most of them all at the same time. It's crazy. Watching you work is amazeballs. It's absolutely insane.
I know you've seen it firsthand when I've been podcasting and 3 people try to call me at the same time, and it's like, oh my God, how many balls am I going to try and juggle here? But it's been working, and so far so good. 2021.
The best part is you'll step away from the podcast, answer the phone call, schedule the appointment, come back to the podcast like you never missed a beat. Somehow you managed to do it. I don't know. It's amazing.
Isn't it? It's awesome. It's unbelievable. It's a fun thing to try and do and accomplish. And the more the merry, baby. The more jobs you got, the more fun it is. It's absolutely an amazing opportunity to be able to do this. And I'm just going to ride the wave, man. But before we get into the sports, I got to make fun of the Polish people, man. And it reared its ugly head, and it went full circle because we knew it was coming.
Wait. This is coming from the guy who tried to throw table salt on his front porch so the snow melts. Please tell me about us Polacks.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you.
Favor.
So I've been the guy that's married to a beautiful Polish woman, and I've attempted each year on Fat Tuesday to go to Kroger and buy punchkis.
No.
And the look of disappointment on her face year after year got tiring. And last year I overdid it. I bought like 5 boxes. I'm like, oh, look, I got custard lemon. She's like, great, thank you so much, but it's not Polish punchkis. These are terrible. They're not. It's like a knockoff. It's not even a good one. And listen, I love Kroger. I've been shopping there for years. So she's like, can you just... The place is literally a half a mile. It's a 5-minute walk from your job. Can you just go on the American Polish Community Center site and order the punchkis? I said, okay, I will do that. Go on the site, order a dozen punchkis of a variety, and bro, they jack up the price. I saw the price. I was like, holy smokes, honey, it's $8 at Kroger. It's $22 for 12 donuts? $22 on Fat Tuesday? She's like, yeah, but they're so good, and I'll make it worth your while. I said, okay, no problem. Put the order in early for a Monday pickup before Fat Tuesday. And the next day, I get a call from them, and they're like, did you make payment? I said, yes, I have confirmation I paid online through PayPal, which makes me so happy. I love it. And they're like, we don't see that. And right away, I'm like, what do you need? And he's like, can you email us that you paid us? I said, okay, I will do that. And I sent the email. I sent a screenshot that it said deducted from PayPal that I purchased these punchkis. I sent the email, no problem. Get the time, 2 o'clock on Monday. Roll up there, 2:05, go there to get my punchkis. And I said to Andrea, I'm like, this is weird, dude. Something's going to be jacked up. Who would email me about payment when I've already paid online? She's like, yeah, something's going to be goofy. I'm like, yeah. Show up there and... they can't find the order. Okay. Not a problem. The nice gentleman who did email me was the one who helped me. He comes up to me. He's like, okay, what's your name? Okay, who's the order from? Go. He goes to the back. Now, meanwhile, this bombastic old lady is sitting there who sells Polish hats and crosses and sitting at a table. She feels the need to interject and is like, did you get a time? I said, yeah. She's like, oh, that probably means you came to the wrong place. You probably needed to go to the place at 14 in Hoover. I've sent a lot of people there that they always get this place mistaken. I said, ma'am, I may be in the wrong spot. There's a chance I could be, but I believe I ordered it at the American Polish Community Center on 15 in DeQuinder by my work. No, this can't be right. You sure you want me to call? I'm like, ma'am, I'm talking to the guy. I think I'm okay. No, this always happens. People get this confused. You just got to go to 14 miles. I said, ma'am, I'm working with this guy. Let's just wait and see if this is... I'm perfectly calm. The 5th time she came back at me, I said, ma'am, we're done here. And I just put my hand up and walked away. She did not like that. You're disrespectful. Now, granted, okay, she leaves. And guess what happens? They bring me my punchkis. So now I'm pissed. So now I'm waiting at her station until she comes back. And I'm sitting there patiently waiting. 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes pass. She comes back. I said, here are my donuts, ma'am. I got a master's degree. You want a couple? And she was not happy. She was not happy at that. I said, ma'am, I know. I'm like, I said to her, I said, the story would have been better if you had sent me to Detroit. I mean, come on. I mean, you know, I understand your situation and things like that. So, you know, I was pushed to my limits at her 5th attempt at telling me I was wrong. And granted, I could see that people might have gotten it mistaken. Andrea told me, you know, there's another place at 14 and Hoover, but that's like literally 15 minutes out of the way. I would not have ordered it there. So for her to do that, I felt bad afterward, but she pushed my buttons to the degree that I just had to just stand there and tell her, like, look, see, I'm right. And, you know, she was not happy. The owner, you know, was just like shocked. And it was weird. It felt like I walked in there. It had it was my first time in there. It had a feel of like a really bad bingo hall. You know, it was like
it's not a good place.
No, I was like, what the hell is this? And so I get in the car, call my wife up right away, and I'm like, see, what is up with you people? I was like, this was like dealing with Middle Eastern people at the highest levels.
So Auntie Anne Marie loves that place for some reason. I don't know why. That place is awful, if you ask me. I don't like their food. I don't like the ambiance of it. I've ate there a couple times. I'm not a fan. Generally, the service isn't very good, as you can bear witness to. So, yeah, not my favorite spot. If I was going to go get them from any place, I would have went to Hamtramck, and I would have got them from New Palace, or I would have got them from Martha Washington.
I'm not going to lie. The punchkis were awesome as hell, bro. Much better. Yeah, right. I feel bad. You know, the custard was great. The cannoli filled. Right? They are different. I'm like, yes, oh, my God, I feel horrible. They were so good. I shoveled snow for 2 hours and ate a couple, and I felt good. I was like, yeah, I can see why the wife is not going to be happy with me for getting knockoff Kroger punchki. So good on me. I got a bunch of them. She was happy. The kids were happy. And I will deal with this kind of service. And I'm used to it. Literally, I expected this kind of thing. But for the lady to come at me 5 different times and then to be, so abrasive about it, it just rubbed me the wrong way. So I definitely offered her some of my donuts and proved to her that I'm not showing up at the wrong place. My gosh, American Polish Cultural Center. That's the place that I went to. It's literally, you and I can walk there, and it's right here. So I have to take advantage of it. I got to debate, and we'll talk next year. Should I give them my business? Because driving to Hamtramck, that's pretty far, bro. Come on.
It's a bit of a troop. So, were they donuts or were they D's nuts?
I was like, you want some of D's nuts? But I think that would have probably gotten the poor guy who couldn't even figure out how the order took place. I think they would probably the first time they ever took online orders. You know,
you're probably the first person to ever pay for it
with PayPal.
Yeah. I mean, look, Polacks keep their money generally squirreled away underneath the mattress. They're not messing around with anything, any type of online payment. So
exactly,
I mean, you're lucky they have debit cards.
So don't rub the DOC the wrong way, or you're gonna upset the man. And my gosh, you're gonna charge $22. At least have somebody who's at least 30 years old. The poor guy they got there trying to hand out the punchkis like damn near 80 years old. I felt bad. I'm like, come on, man. Come on, Grandpa. Find the food. Find it. I want to get out of here. But guess who doesn't have to worry about the American Polish Cultural Center anymore? Blake Griffin.
Speaking of getting out of here.
Speaking of getting out of Dodge ASAP, Blake Griffin about to get paid. He's about to earn some fat money, and I'm talking in the neighborhood of maybe $40 million to go away. That's something, I guess, if an organization and you fall out of favor and you got 2 years and over $65 million owed to you, and the organization is going to have to cut you a check to leave, getting over $50 million is going to be pretty sweet for him. I don't feel bad at all.
Well, hold on 1 second. Like you said, fall out of favor. I don't think this organization's fallen out of favor with Blake Griffin. I think this is one of those situations where you've got a team
he can't play.
that's the thing. He really can't play, and he's not worth. He's making over 34 million this year, and next year he's set to make just under 39 million. He's not worth the money anymore. And you've got a team that when you put all the young guys out there, there's some chemistry building. They're winning a couple games, and the thing is, you don't necessarily want them to win any more games. So I think this is more of a strategic approach by Troy Weaver here to kind of sandbag this team a little bit. You're going to move the big all-star veteran away from this team, get him far, far away. Hopefully this team tanks a little bit and slides. They'll continue to develop some of that chemistry. So next year they're good. You're trying to invest as many chances as you can to get as many ping pong balls as you can possibly get. And that's what this move is designed for. Like, you're going to send Blake Griffin away because me to you, you to me, let's just be completely honest about this. There's nobody trading for this guy. There's nobody in their right mind that would trade for this man. Not when he is owed as much money as he is owed. On top of that, you just said it. He can hardly play. He's no longer the all-star forward that he once was. He is no longer that all-star that can go out there and basically get you 30 and 10. That's not his game anymore. And, I'm not saying that he can't do it here and there, but he can't go out there every night and do that. He's a guy who's going to basically he would work best to be on a contender coming off the bench as a sixth man, or I'm going to throw a team out there and you tell me if I'm crazy. So he gets bought out by Detroit, right? For 30, 40. You're throwing the number 50 out. I don't know if they would pay him $50 million to go away, but we'll say 30 to 40 million. Maybe a team like the Lakers. There's some problems going on with Anthony Davis. Sounds like he's going to be sidelined for a couple weeks. This is a prime opportunity for a guy like Blake to come in, sign a league veteran minimum contract, slides into Anthony Davis's spot, plays that role for a couple weeks. Just as he's starting to fatigue and break down a little bit, Anthony Davis comes back. And next thing you know, Blake's getting worked in off the bench. How does that sound? On top of that, you're playing with LeBron, so you're guaranteed to at least go to a finals, and you have a really good shot of winning it this year with LeBron. What do you think about that?
Ooh, the Lakers. I like it. You said it. If a general manager trades for Blake Griffin, he probably should be fired on the spot because they know that the Detroit Pistons have to buy him out, and they don't want to take on that huge $39 million deal next year because if you trade for him, you got to take that on. He's got a player option, so he's going to definitely want to be part of that and get as much money. So the real general managers will obviously take a look at what's going on, and they'll wait for the Pistons to buy him out, and then they can just sign him to a real cheap deal if they want to keep him around and things like that. And so they can get him at a very, very affordable price to be able to get his services. But he's got nothing left. So why would the Lakers really take a flyer? It may be a situation where, I don't know, any other team that would be in needing of his service. The problem is that we need Blake Griffin to kind of get healthier. We needed him to, obviously, his jump is not there. His three-point shot is not there. His game drastically. I mean, it went quick because basically we got the best of him, in 19? And then the last couple of years, he's just been injury-riddled. And we thank him for getting us to the playoffs once, but there was no victories. So he balled out in 18, but the last couple of years just really have been atrocious. And we said it. That's the tough part. And I maybe was a little harsh when my tweet was "see ya," because he's been a pro and everyone's like, oh, he never complained about Detroit. He balled out. But that tweet was intended for the Pistons in that we joked about it. We took bets and said, hey, it comes right to my mind. We said, how many games is he going to get? How many games is he going to be on the roster before he gets hurt? And I put it at 17. I think he played, the first 25 games. Then he got hurt. Then he balled out in the postseason. So with the injury lingering, which required now multiple surgeries to try and get back, I just can't believe the Pistons surveyed the landscape and felt like that contract was worth bringing in for that player. It's egregious at the highest levels. We all said it when we were like, that's not a superstar because he won't be on the court. It was like delaying the rebuild. It was not a superstar. It was a crazy attempt all the way around. But if you're Blake Griffin, you were a professional all the way through and through. But his legacy for me is like one big, huge dial tone. It was never supposed to happen. It was never supposed to be. You delayed the rebuild. and you took a big fat amount of money to come play in Detroit. If you're Blake Griffin, you got to be the most jaded individual with what they did. You hear what they did to him in L.A., rolled out a whole retirement thing. We're going to keep you here forever. And then they ship him
That's why you go to L.A., man. And you just stick it to the Clippers.
Yeah, and you should ship him to the Pistons. Man, I just can't believe, I think he's done. I don't see him lasting in the league that much longer. I think his career is near over.
I think, so this is what I could see. We've already talked about what he'll get from the Pistons, right? I think he gets that big check to just kind of ride off into the sunset. The guy totally wants to win a championship. So let's just say he does go to LA. Let's say they win. He's going to be 32 next year. I could see him coming back, and I could see him playing on 1-year deals for the next 2 years. And basically being a guy who just comes in off the bench, whether he's the 6th or the 7th man. He'll bounce around from team to team. He'll go to teams that feel like will put him in the best spot to win, and he'll go to a team where he feels like he'll be utilized to his fullest potential coming off the bench. He's not a guy who can give you long-term minutes. He's a guy who can fill in here and there. He's not a guy who's going to be able to carry your team. And he just needs to, at this point, go someplace, get to a contender, and be the 6th man, be the 7th man. Help bring along some of these young rookies. I mean, I think some of the best quotes came from a lot of the young Pistons players who said he was a guy who taught us how to be a professional. And you need a guy like that in every locker room. You need a guy who basically shows you how to go through film study, shows you I don't want to say how to put your shoes on, but basically how to prepare and get yourself mentally focused for a game, and then get yourself prepared to go out and play that game, and to be able to do it for an extended period of time. A lot of times the college kids come in, right? They only play maybe 30 games if they're good enough to make it all the way through the tournament. So when you spin that around and now you're playing an 82-game season, that's a really long season. So how do you keep your mind fresh? How do you keep your body going after it wants to give up? Because your body's basically not conditioned to do that. I don't care how much you work out during training camp, your body's still not conditioned to do that. So I think having a guy with that veteran presence, and he's respected around the league. He is a respected player around the league. He could basically go anywhere he wants, fit in, and again, just don't put a lot on his plate. Just let him be a guy to give you 10, 15 minutes a night. Let him be a guy to kind of come in and spell somebody for a little bit, put him out there with the big guns now and again, and let him get some open looks. But you don't need him out there all the damn time running up and down the court. He just doesn't have the wheels for it anymore. I mean, let me ask you this. Do you think it was a failed experiment? Because to me, this was one of those Stan Van Gundy, Tom Gore's, let's just kind of roll the dice, see what the hell happens, see what we get. We're going to trade a bunch of assets away, and we're going to get a superstar. We could build around the superstar. But we both said it at the time. He's no longer a superstar. He's an aging veteran who's breaking down. And when he got here, he seemed to break down much, much quicker because he had to carry this team on his back. And I think everything that you had to give up to get him here, I think it was a total miscalculation by Tom Gores. I think it was Stan Van Gundy getting put in a bad spot to do what his owner wanted him to do. And I don't think it really worked out. Yeah, you got to the playoffs one time, and yeah, you got ran out of town by the Bucks. I don't think it worked. I think in the long run, this is going to be one of those things where it's just kind of detrimental to the organization because you're going to try to get out from underneath him, but you had to give up so many picks to get him here. You had to give up 2 picks to get him here, and now you're going to have to cut him a 30 to 40, maybe a $50 million check just to go away. I think it's one of those things that really kind of hamstrings an organization. And good organizations don't do these things.
Yeah, they definitely don't bring in a player like that. It's just you needed somebody, if you were going to get somebody that was going to be healthy, that could bring the noise, and that could consistently put the ball in the basket. His game, I give him credit. He became a jump shooter. His game was violent, and he went to the rim, and he was able to be explosive and be really and a guy that could jump out of the gym. He turned his game around and was making threes at a nice clip, was making great jump shots, and he became a leader. And that's fine, but of course it's a failed experiment. It was doomed from the moment that the trade was announced. And whoever we got to dig to the bottom of it. If it was actually Stan Van Gundy, it kind of appears like SVG had to fall on the sword because Tom Gores wanted a superstar. He wanted to get to the postseason. But guess what? If it was truly Tom Gores' mistake, he's going to have to write a $50 million check to potentially get out of it, or at least $30 to $50 million to get away from his terrible mistake. But that's what happens when you're a billionaire and you're so disconnected that you don't know what's going on. He'll cut the check and he'll move on. And, for the Pistons fans, we just had to wait 2 more years. I mean, we told you. I mean, it was not a surprise. It's just like, the better part of Doc and Jock for the last 2 years has just been waiting for all the terrible things to happen that we said were going to happen to just finally take place with Stafford, with the Tigers rebuild, with the Red Wings. We said, okay, let's move this along. We could have did this all in 2016. Did anybody listen to us? Hello? Was this on in 2016? We were screaming in 2016, 2017. What are you guys waiting for? Trade Michael Fulmer. Trade these people. And trade Andre Drummond, trade Reggie Jackson. And they waited like 1 year too long because they just didn't want to rip the Band-Aid off. Now, finally, we have our teams, all 4 of them, are rebuilding at the same time. And it's so juicy because we get to experiment and we get to explore and see which team is going to do the job the right way. And I absolutely can't wait to see it, to see if the Wings push through. The Pistons are going to take time, but they got a lot of draft capital. You know that Brad Holmes is going to take advantage. The Tigers, I love what's going on. It's rebuild city, baby, and I just don't want to see all 4 teams struggle in their rebuilds. I just think that it's going to take a couple more years, but we're right around the corner. The 400s of our podcast are going to be looking at a lot of young players, but once because we hit to 500, it's going to be so good in Detroit. We just got to wait a couple more years. From 500 to 700, we're going to talk about playoffs and wins and exploring big games and talking about big acquisitions and big signing and investment. The 4 to 500 is just going to be, all right, who's staying, who's going, and which general manager is doing the best job. And that's just the way it's going to be. But
do you remember a time where all 4 teams basically hit the reset button at the same exact time? Like,
not like
thinking
this,
about the 80s. No, thinking about the 80s, you had the Pistons who were really good. If you go to the 90s, the Red Wings were pretty good into the early 2000s. And then early 2000s, you had the Pistons that were very, very good. The 2010s, Tigers were pretty good. And then now we're here in the early 2020, everybody is in reset mode. It's crazy to think about. You know what I'm saying? It's absolutely nuts. Like, for as long as you and I have both been alive, I can't remember a time where every team in the city was having to basically reset everything and essentially start from scratch, start with a blank slate. I mean, you've got the Tigers going through their own little rebuild right now, possibly bringing up some of the draft picks, bring up some of the young guys from AAA. They're going to be getting a buttload of time this year. You've got the Lions in full rebuild mode. We've been talking about it for weeks now. You now have the Pistons going through it. They've been doing it since last year's draft. And once they move on from Blake, it's like getting rid of the old. So now you can kind of fully invest in the new. And you look at the Red Wings. We've talked about it before. They're a team that is kind of in this weird spot with their rebuild, where they've got some of these younger guys on the roster. They're in the process of purging some of the old guys, and they're waiting for these draft picks to kind of come up, waiting for these guys to come up out of the minors and start to kind of fill out the ranks a little bit. And don't be surprised if a guy like, we'll say it, Anthony Mantha, I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like, and I would have no problem. It won't happen. But, man, I'd be excited if it did. If a guy like Dylan Larkin got traded.
Yeah. Really do a rebuild. Yeah.
Move some of those guys out. Get either young prospects in or get some higher draft capital. I'd really like some young prospects, though. But I can't remember a time where that reset button was in full go for all 4 teams. It's absolutely insane right now.
And I like the general managers. I think each one is unique in their own right. And I just think that the Wings, Pistons, probably Lions have good general managers, but
I was going to say, do the Tigers feel like they're the only one where you just have a whole bunch of question marks and red flags?
And I like the general managers, but I don't like I like AJ Hinch. Outside of that, I think the winning is going to start with 3 different gentlemen at the helm. AJ Hinch probably will be here for the winning part of the Tigers rebuild. Dan Campbell, I was thinking this too. I was, when I was having a little break here mid-afternoon, I was telling myself, Dan Campbell kind of the guy that's gets things going, gets the attitude right. Do you think Brad Holmes, and this is just pure speculation, no inside knowledge, do you think Brad Holmes does him dirty and brings in Sean McVay? Do they have that much of a connection? If it fails in LA, does the next opportunity for Sean McVay be here in Detroit? Would you want it? Would you be that guy to be like, you know what, he's got experience. Dan Campbell, we can do this collaboration rah-rah thing, and 2 years, 3 years from now, LA is struggling. They're in cap hell. Do you think Brad Holmes would do him dirty and just be like, I'm going to have to let you go, Dan. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. And go get his boy from L.A.? Wouldn't that be dirty? That'd be dirty at the highest level. I would kind of like it.
I mean, I never thought about it, but
I was thinking about it this afternoon.
Here's the thing. I could see that happening. I mean, Sean McVay is an incredibly offensively gifted head coach. Guy has a lot of passion. Players really seem to like him. I could see Dan Campbell being basically that bridge to whomever's going to get you over the hump. And I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Like, not saying like Dan Campbell's going to be a bad coach. We don't know. We mean, he had 12 games in Miami. That's kind of all we got to go with, and he was the interim guy. It really looks as though his strong suit, his ability, is to kind of pull people together.
Yeah.
So Sean McVay's strong point is rolling out X's and O's and diagramming ways for that offense to completely annihilate the opposition. So I could see that happening. I haven't thought about it at all because we're so new in all of this.
Oh, we're looking next because I just like, it's Dan Campbell. I mean, it was a great speech, but it's just hard for us to sit here and imagine a first time real, in charge of a team, taking his team to the next level. So we'll see. But the coaches got to probably step it up across the board. But in speaking of the Lions here, to turn our attention, you kind of are maybe not liking the complete shift to being so transparent. Now, for us in the media here, we love it because, dude, there's quotes galore. Dan Campbell in 3 interviews gave 3 amazing quotes, and we're just writing stories left and right. Everybody that's contacted me on the SI network and from Miami and from New Orleans is like, John, I'm so jealous. Dan's going to give you 1 million quotes in the next 2 years. I'm like, yeah, no doubt about it. I'm like, you know what? I got to turn this around because he's definitely quotable. And I was like, yeah, I got to learn how to do this because the last guy, he made my eyes roll in the back of my head. He was so boring. He would use 1,000 words to talk, and you had to wait for the transcript to try and figure out what the hell he was saying. Dan, you can quote him. He's like, hey, give us patience, give us time. We're not going to sell the bank. He's open. And he's willing to share certain things. Now, he did dismiss my Stafford question when he knew that Stafford, at the time when I asked it, he knew that Stafford was leaving, and he kind of made a joke. So that's a kind of a tell, potentially, is that he may be a jokester when there's information that he doesn't want to reveal. But I like the new transparency. And here's why. I'll be succinct. And I think that in one of the rare moments where Bob Quinn was honest, he said, look, the rest of the general managers, we're all talk. We all have each other's numbers. We all text. They know what I have. They know what I need. I know what they need. I'm not going to really try and pull a fast one on a lot of these guys. We're friends, and we make deals together, and they know what I need. Everyone knows the Lions need defense. Everyone knows you got Jared Goff, so you're not really on the surface looking for a quarterback. When all these teams put together their boards, they know what the Lions are looking for. It's either a receiver or a linebacker or a position on the defense. So I think when you say, oh, they're so transparent and talking about their needs and talking about not really making a splash in free agency, the Lions story, cuz, is basically written. They're strapped for money. They're going to look for bargain deals, and they're going to look for defense and potentially a weapon on offense in this year's draft. There's no real thing that they're hiding that you would say, oh my gosh, let's not reveal. Now, if they want to try and pull off a deal and move up to number 2 or 3 and be aggressive now, I don't see it because on the surface, Campbell has in his interview said, we're building through the draft. We're not selling the farm. So I'm at this point in time, I'm believing them. I think the Lions, I don't believe they're being way too transparent in what they're doing. What was your concern?
So not really a concern. And I don't think you could have it both ways. When we had Matt Patricia here, we said we want more. We want more information. We want you to be a little bit more transparent. Now you get Dan Campbell, who's 180 degrees opposite, right? He's so transparent. I don't think you can have it both ways, but I do think that there's a bit of a median that you can kind of find. My concern is I don't necessarily want him showing the Lions' hand, right? You kind of seen what happened with Bob Quinn. You've seen what happened with Matt Patricia, where they would end up pigeonholing themselves when it came to the draft, or when it came from trying to move on from players, or when it came from basically doing anything with the front office and this organization as far as personnel goes. They would show you their hand and tell you exactly what they were going to do. I just don't want that to become a thing. I have no problem with Dan Campbell coming out and basically telling it how it is. I love that. I am so on board with it. His very first press conference, he basically called that defense out, and I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I loved it so much. It worked its way into a topic between myself and B on the practice squad, where B basically called me an idiot because he's already alienating his locker room. And I was like, no, as a player, you love this. You know exactly where you stand with your head coach. I love the fact that he tells you how it is and tells you what he's looking for. I just don't want this to end up rolling over and basically tipping hands for the draft, tipping hands from moving on from players. And so far, it hasn't. It hasn't been one of those things. But I love the fact that you know where this team's at, and they're very upfront about it. Like, hey, we're going to suck, and you guys need to be prepared for us to suck, because it's going to be tough for the next couple years until we can kind of build this thing and get this right. And I love the fact that they're going into it with that mentality. And I love the fact that they're telling us this, because next season, if you're a Lions fan, you need to expect them to be bad. Not bad like the Lions are normally bad, but you need to expect them to be absolutely brutal, because this is a team that is trying to figure out what it has to do to lay the foundation for it to build a winning football program. And yes, the NFL is weird, where you can do it very, very quickly. You can turn it around in 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons, depending on the pieces you have to work with. I think we both agree the offensive line is good. And then just about after that, it's a bunch of question marks. Defense is piss poor. Your quarterback, he has question marks. There's a reason that you got him when you traded your old quarterback, okay? Your running back, in your running backs, I should make it plural, question marks. You don't know who's going to be in there with DeAndre Swift. And I don't even know if DeAndre Swift can hold up a whole season. You know, to me, it feels like you've got Kerryon Johnson, just a little bit quicker version, a little bit more athletic version. So outside your offensive line, I really don't know what we have. So this team is going to struggle next year. And they're telling you, we're going to be bad, but be patient and it should be better. And I love that. And I think that's great. I just don't want them to kind of tell you what they're doing with the draft. And you know what? Sitting at 7, the world is their oyster, so they can get the shucking. Whatever they want to do at 7, they have the ability to do it. If you want to go get the best player available, and that's a wide receiver, you can do it. I might not like it, but you can go do it. If you want to get the best defensive player, you want to get an impactful linebacker, go ahead and do it. You want to trade back, get more pieces, do it. Whatever you want to do, you want to go draft an offensive lineman to help shore up the one unit that you have on this team that is better than all the rest. Go ahead and do it. You want to go get a quarterback, go ahead and do it. They can do whatever they want this year, and it's okay. They've got so much flexibility. It's great. I love it. So it's just, I don't want it to impact how they're able to move and how they're able to position themselves when it comes to getting serious things done. And I think it hasn't to this point. I mean, the Matt Stafford deal is a prime example of that. So just a little bit worrisome that it is sometimes a little bit too off the cuff and it's a little bit too out in the open, you know?
Yeah, it's going to be a good couple weeks here to see kind of how this is going to be put together, to see kind of the brain trust, to see will they be aggressive, will they move up, will they move down. This is the prime year, cuz it has to be the prime year where you don't need to stay at 7. You can get a great linebacker, and we'll talk about it in future editions of the podcast. You can get a great linebacker at number 15 through 17. You can get a great productive player later on. So if you can get capital, this is the year to trade out. And I hope that there's a market for the number 7 pick that can be created. And I think it's going to happen. This is the year where I think the odds-on favorite will be for the Lions to trade down. It has to be. You get more picks. You have an opportunity to take advantage and build this team, maybe get one more pick in this year's draft to get to 7. I think that if Brad Holmes is worth what people say he is, then you're probably going to get 3 to 4 starters, and then you get 3 to 4 free agents. You're going to free up some money with cutting some people. You franchise tag Kenny Galladay. You sign Aquara. And I think, I'm starting to kind of turn around a little bit where it's going to be bad, but I think it's going to be 6-10, 7-9 bad. I don't see it being 4-win bad. You have talent at some key positions. If you can just add 7 players this year, 7 players next year, now you're starting to develop. I mean, you just have to be really incompetent to fall into 3 wins and 5 wins in the National Football League. It's a league built to win. It's a league built to rebuild and find talented individuals. So they're going to do it. I have more hope this time around that some wins are going to start to show up. Now, and then at that point, we'll evaluate to see if the next level can take place where in the crunch moments today, earlier on NFL Network, they replayed the Buffalo Rams game from earlier this year and early in the season to see what Buffalo was able to do. Josh Allen was special. He was able to bring the Buffalo Bills back, and it was a great opportunity to see, wow, a defense playing well, a big, tall quarterback, poised, taking his team down the field for a victory, and that got them to 3-0. And I just said to myself, man, if that my first thought was, of course, the one time I get to sit and watch some football, it's Jared Goff blowing a lead, his team blowing a lead. But then I said to myself, ooh, okay, if the Lions can start and find their guy, we'll start the process of moving things forward. Now, before we get to Ward Manuel, I do want to get your thoughts on this. Is Tom Brady a little petty by creating content to really attack all his haters? Now, me personally, I have one locked in the chamber for April, and you'll see it when it comes. But I get it in that he uses the negativity that people spew at him to this day. I was telling this to a client when we were wrapping up a session. I said, a guy like Tom Brady would not have been Tom Brady if he was drafted number 3. I think the number 1, being drafted in the 6th round, that number that he was drafted set such he took it so personally, so offensive, that to this day, he throws footballs with hatred to prove everybody wrong, that he's never satisfied, that he's just so offended. And I obviously relate to that. At the highest level, I think that you have to have a little bit of spite and some of that piss and vinegar to get you over the hump. But you've got, now at this point, you got 7 rings. You rode the coattails of a nice defense. You were a cog in the wheel. You weren't the guy. Did he really? He could have maybe tweeted it. If you don't, go to Tom Brady's Twitter. It's entertaining. But he put out, and obviously the best part was Sports Illustrated was in there. He put out a list of the haters and set it to music. And his tweet was simple yet effective. I love sports radio. And it was cute. I loved it. But then, I go, come on, dude. You're at the throne. You're the king. It really comes off like, all right, you're being a little petty and you're acting kind of like a child when you're the king of the sports world. At 3, 4, 5 rings, you can do it. But I could see why he's a little bit salty because people keep predicting his surmise and the man just rises to the occasion. But shouldn't he be above that at this point?
No, it's what's worked for him.
Yeah, keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, look, the guy's 42? Just won a Super Bowl. He's won more Super Bowls than organizations like the Steelers,
right?
Like the Cowboys, like the 49ers. This guy is the all-time winningest quarterback ever, especially when it comes to Super Bowls anyways. No, if this is what got you there and this is what works for you, keep doing it, bro. I mean, I hope this guy plays until he's 45, and I hope he wins maybe 2 more. I think it would be a great story.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Like, you're right. He wouldn't have been the same quarterback if he was drafted at 3. He wouldn't have been the same quarterback if he was drafted at 35. He wouldn't have been the same quarterback if he was drafted at 97. He needed to go in the 6th round. He needed to go where he went because it put a chip on his shoulder. Yeah. And he went and he played behind a really good quarterback in Drew Bledsoe, and he took over, and he's never looked back. And I think it's fantastic. I love the fact, like, dude, I loved what he did. I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. So, no, look, keep doing what you're doing. And, again, I hope he does it for another 3 years, and I hope he maybe wins 1 or 2 more. I think it'd be great.
All right. Props to Michigan Hoops, cuz doing their thing, winning. That was an amazing win against Wisconsin. Now I am of the opinion that they're probably going to make a healthy run in this year's tournament. Juwan Howard proving that you can be the man quickly. You can bring in your guys. And I think that the athletic department deserves credit for turning things around, especially after many people were doubting that Juwan Howard could do things after John Beeline had his run there. And so, do you give a little credit to Ward Manuel for bringing home a Michigan man? You know, he gets a 5-year extension. It made our sheet here. Me personally, I'm okay with Ward Manuel. I think that the Michigan athletic department is doing okay. Obviously, football at the highest level is quite disappointing. But what's your thoughts on Ward Manuel?
I mean, Michigan football still kind of drives the bus, right? At Michigan, it's still the number one sport, still the number one thing that gets talked about. And you have a head coach there that Ward Manuel basically went to and said, hey, go see if you can find any NFL team that wants to take you. Go see if there's anybody else who wants you. Because if we bring you back, we're cutting your salary in half because you haven't done anything. You haven't won nothing. And look, he inherited Jim Harbaugh. I get it. All right. But your football team is probably one of the most disappointing sports at that school. Now, I will say this. There's a lot of positives for Ward Manuel, a ton of them, right? Brought in Juwan Howard. That basketball team is outstanding right now. They're fantastic. They were on a 23-day layoff. Next thing you know, they bounced back against a good Wisconsin team on the road. All right, you've got other sports that like girls basketball, it's very good. Girls softball, it's very, very good. Men's baseball is pretty good. You have a bunch of other sports in the university that are fantastic. And he's not cut any sports. A lot of times what happened with everything going on with COVID, a lot of schools had to cut sports. Michigan did not. They cut none of their athletic programs. I think that's fantastic. That shows a guy who's got a real good grasp on the finances of his athletic department. The issue is your football team hasn't done enough. While your basketball team is going out there and basically looking like it should be playing for the Final Four or nothing else, your football team can't seem to even win its division to then go and play in Indianapolis to do anything of relevance. It's a team that consistently underperforms against the big dogs like Ohio State, hit or miss against Michigan State. I mean, this year was a complete embarrassment. If you want to look at that game alone, where you have a brand new head coach who had zero time to even prepare his team or even give them a playbook, and you end up losing to Rocky Lombardi. I mean, like, what are we talking about here? And you're about 50-50 against a school like Notre Dame. So your football program is an absolute mess. I think he gets a huge demerit in my book for the way he's handled this football program and the way he's handled Jim Harbaugh's contract. There's a reason that it took so damn long. There's a reason that it played out as long as it did. They were trying to do right by Jim and send him on his way and say, hey, go find an NFL team that wants you. Go someplace else, just not here. And you know what? Nobody wants him. Nobody wants him. Not even Michigan. Michigan doesn't even want him. And he had nobody to take him, and he had to settle for taking less money. So he gets a huge demerit for that. Is it okay that he gets extended? Yeah, it's fine because he's done a lot of other good things for Michigan athletics. It's just the one thing that kind of sticks in my craw is the way that he's been able to handle this football team. It's a total downer for sure.
How he's handled the football situation with Jim Harbaugh just hasn't been one that speaks to a program that's like fully 100% committed to winning. And whenever that starts to creep into your program, to the belief that, hey, that, you know, we're sticking with a guy that many people don't believe in anymore, then you're going to start to have issues. And it may be, you know, maybe we'll have to tease it. Who's been more disappointing in 2019 and 2020, Tom Izzo or Jim Harbaugh? Because unfortunately, I think Izzo has a built-in excuse. Half of his roster or more had COVID. They don't seem as intense. They don't seem like they're talented. But to neglect the guard position, to not have a point guard, to not recognize that Foster Loyer basically was a high school legend, but that he's not a Big Ten point guard, we can question it, but Tom Izzo has to be right. And then now to lose a 5-star, ultra disappointing, and the reason given was weak in that the player from Canada felt like, oh, there's going to be more big guys ahead of me and I'm not going to be able to shine. I want to shine right away. It's not looking good. It's ultra disappointing, and I get it. It's factual. Tom Izzo wasn't going to diss the program, but he said, I'm not concerned about the reputation of the program. We've had this great history. He's got great talent coming in. He deserves, I mean, it's human nature. There's no coach that's just never going to have no blips on the radar. So while it's ultra disappointing that probably his 22-year streak in the tournament's going to come to an end. I'm not going to sit here and count him out, but it's ultra disappointing. I think that he keeps coming out and saying, I've had to coach differently. I can't get these guys to do what I want to do. He keeps kind of hinting that he can't yell at the guys or coach the way he wants to because guys are so sensitive that he's changing. I think at one point, I'm going to ask him, be like, why don't you just be Tom Izzo? And if they don't like it, so be it. Why keep hinting that you're coaching in a way that's different? He's hinted that people have told him that he's kind of coaching in a softer manner. I'm just like, okay, if you don't feel like the guys are going to respond or they're going to quit if you yell at them, then let them quit. You're Tom Izzo. But Tom Izzo, Jim Harbaugh have created high standards, and they both have not met it. And Ward Manuel has enabled Jim Harbaugh, given him a contract. You can't even speak about Tom Izzo without bringing out a bunch of supporters and slaps over there at Michigan State. So it's real interesting, the dynamic of the two programs, to see where they're going, because they've kind of flatlined, and it's not good to see.
I think the big issue with Izzo, and I don't mean to cut you off, I think the big issue with Izzo is his inability to kind of get out of his own way. So he's got this long legacy, this long history, and you at this point, you're not going to make it's going to take a miracle for you to make any sort of run to get into the tourney. So why not roll out your best lineup that's going to help you build for next year? Try to get guys a lot of playing time to help them build for next year. Have guys going out there working on specific things in game to get you ready for next season. So next season you can be better. Just too much trying to hold on to that legacy. It's almost like what the Red Wings did. You remember how the Red Wings mortgaged everything, their entire future, so they could try to play for one more playoff run. Let's do it one more time. Next thing you know, your future is basically an empty trash can. And that's kind of what this seems like with Izzo. Now, Izzo is great at recruiting, and he'll be able to basically reload. But at this point, the season's over. Let these guys get as much playing time as possible to help get them better for next year. That's what I would do.
Okay. Great podcast, sir. Our time has come to an end. Our hours, they go by so fast. We appreciate everybody who's listening. Steve, Putty, appreciate you. Appreciate the back and forth. Real quick, though, on Putty, I've been the same about Stafford since the day this microphone turned on. All about wins, baby. And he's been all about building a line. That's fine. I'm of the opinion that even with a line, I thought Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker was a line.
That's a pretty good line this year.
That's a pretty good line. And they devoted a lot of picks to it. I think potentially history is going to write that Stafford is going to be a good quarterback. I don't see big things in LA. I see potentially getting to the big games, but then getting thwarted by Aaron Rodgers.
Here's the thing. For Stafford has to go to LA, and he has to win a Super Bowl.
He's not going to.
I mean, look, Jared Goff got you to the big dance, and you lost. And you lost in a close one, all right?
Maybe he'll piggyback
Stafford has to go win the whole damn thing. That's the only way.
There'll be some good topics, because that defense is probably at the level where they can carry him to some big-time wins. I think that's why he wanted to go there, was not to be the shining star. That's the facade. That's what he's going to let the talking heads believe. He wants to be a cog. He didn't want to be the guy. And that's kind of the underlying, if you read the exit interviews, he wanted more pieces around him so that he didn't have to be the guy. And just kind of read between the lines there, and I felt like what he was saying was, I don't want to be the marquee headline guy of this team. I want to be a cog, but I want to let the other guys do their thing. And so he wants to transition, I think, to be a piece, kind of like how Tom Brady wanted.
Can we put a pin in this, and can we talk about this next week?
Yeah, for sure. I think
because you've got me pissed off right now. You don't, but hearing all of that, it just makes me think about
the exit interviews and what you heard.
Let's just put a pin in it. Let's talk about it next week.
Yeah,
that'll be the first topic we jump into next week.
Yeah, absolutely, because of the fact that I read those exit interviews, and I was a little bit down, and I'm like, oh, you went to your boys, huh? The writer at the Free Press that you work with charity, and the TV guy did your thing. Good exit interviews. I hope maybe he will. I wonder if he'll let the Detroit media talk to him on March 17th when the official trade takes place. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll talk more about Stafford and a bunch of other things on the next week's episode of Doc and Jock. Thank you guys for letting us broadcast. Thank you for letting us keep the lights on and the studio mics hot with your support. Anywhere you listen to your favorite downloads, type in Detroit Sports Podcast. and hit the subscribe button. Often imitated, never duplicated, because nobody else has Doc and Jock. Peace!